Hey, what's up, good people? Man, it's your host, Ezekiel Nyanga. Yet another FiredUp KC episode. Today, I have a great leader, man, one of the greatest mentors in Kansas City in the sport division. He's doing a great job. I want to bring on the athletic director of sports at UMKC. He is a huge motivational speaker that a lot of people look up to. I want to bring on Dr. Brandon. Dr. Brandon, welcome to the FiredUp KC show. Excited to have you here today. How you doing, sir?
I'm excellent, Zeke. Thanks so much for having me.
It's an honor.
Yeah,
I mean, I am, because I've seen you on many occasions at basketball games, and you are on the forefront. And also, you've hosted a lot of events on campus when it comes to mentorship and being able to speak to young people and being able to inspire them to pursue purpose and be diligent in what they do, which is really awesome that you do that. Now, a lot of people who do not know you, like I said, Dr. Brandon is the athletic director for UMKC. Now, just give people a little bit bio about yourself and how you got to where you are today so they can know who we have on the show today.
Sure. It's my pleasure. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I was born and raised in South Central LA, and went to USC for all of my education. Was a student athlete at USC. I had the opportunity to play professionally overseas in Venezuela, in China, and Spain, and experienced a rebirth and learned a lot about myself. And it was in 2000 when I figured out that athletics administration was my niche. And I was at USC at the time. And for the football fans on the call, that was Pete Carroll's first year in the dynasty period from 2000 to 2010. So I was an athletic administrator from 2000 to 2010 at USC, had the opportunity to go to the University of Oklahoma and work for one of the giants in the business, Joe Castiglione, and learned a great deal from him, a wealth of information, how to manage stakeholders, how to raise money. He was a great mentor for me.
Okay.
And transitioned to Cal State Northridge for 5 years and was able to do some transformative work there, and landed at UMKC. And I've been at UMKC for the past 17 months. It's been a great journey. I work with some incredible people. I have some of the smartest student athletes in the nation, and I'm about the opportunity moving forward.
Man, that's awesome. Now I want to ask you this. What is the difference from being at USC and then being at UMKC? What is that like? What is different?
It's a good question. I mean, USC now is considered a Power 5 school athletic department in the Pac-12. Back when I was at USC, it was the Pac-10. To answer your question more clearly, it's a matter of maybe $100 million budget versus a $15 million budget. It's a matter of you're in a larger media market. You have a larger platform. Expectations are higher. And the economics are critical. Yeah. And that's from ticket sales, that's from sponsorships, that's from your donor base. The donor base at USC is a lot larger. It's a more volume of donors than we have at UMKC. But UMKC, I tell everyone in the community, we're sitting on acres of diamonds. And there's no ceiling to how high we can go. Our mantra is comprehensive excellence. And one of the things we do is we try and get better each day, whether that's selling a ticket, whether that's inviting or inviting a donor to come to a game. That's also our marketing and branding, making sure that that's spread throughout the city, because our goal is to have that 15, 16-year-old get excited about UMKC as an institution, not just in athletics.
Yeah.
So we went through a rebranding process. And so there's a huge disparity between USC and UMKC, but I embrace the challenge. I embraced the opportunity. Chancellor Agrawal has been just terrific to work for and to work with. The administration have been good partners. They've embraced our philosophy, and we're looking forward to new heights moving forward.
Now, I want to ask you this. It's going to be a personal question. So you were an athlete. When did you make that switch from being an athlete to say, you know what, I want to go into being more in the system of how things are run and not just being a player? What was that switch for you?
The transition was around 2000 when I was a graduate assistant in the athletics department at USC, and Mike Garrett was the athletics director there, the legendary Chief. And I had the great opportunity to work for him.
Yeah.
But that's when I found my niche. That's when I knew that I wanted to be an athletics director. That's when I knew that I wanted to use the platform for college athletics to be a mentor, a guide, and a guardian for student athletes. And I wanted to use that platform to have a voice for change, especially in a turbulent period that we're in now. We need platforms for change, platforms that want to really stretch ourselves and get outside of some of the paradigm paralysis that we've existed in for far too long. And so it was around that time when I figured out that I could use sports as a platform to be a change agent.
Yeah, because I've gone to one of your events that you had, and you were talking. You always focus on being able to build, black men, basically having them know their value and being able to focus on the target. I want to ask you this: is when I see you speak, I feel a connection to you because I know you're speaking from your heart, and it's something that you really want to make a change in. Now, growing up, was it something you always looked forward to doing? And what really made you start thinking that way as a young person and where you are today?
I think that's a good question, Zeke. My father was a huge influence in my life. I'm first generation. My dad didn't go to college. He worked in transportation for the LA Times for 28 years. But he instilled strong core values in me. He had an expectation for me to be a leader. And he sent me messages of self-worth, self-value, and messages of determination on a daily basis. And that transferred to everything that I did as an athlete, student, and now as a leader and athletics director. That's really the foundation of where this comes from. Because my dad always emphasized that it's more than just about me. It's about your service to others. And that's how a man is measured. Not so much on his accomplishments, but how many people has he pulled up? How many people has he served? And that's a mindset where you can't be judgmental about where another man has come from in his journey. You have to meet him where he's at and to find a way to have influence and to find a way to pull him up from wherever situation he's in and make him successful. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Wow. Well said, because I believe that I think it's Denzel Washington that said, he says, each one teach one, right?
Sure.
If you get to the place where you are, you need to teach the next person right next to you how to get there. And I think that's how we pass on the generation of wisdom, of wealth. Because if you don't teach the next generation, they're not going to know what to do. Let me ask you, so growing up, how did you get into sports? How did you get into being an athlete? What led you to do that? And what are some challenges you faced as a young person?
When I was 7 years old, my dad sent me to Magic Johnson's basketball camp.
Mm.
And I'm not going to tell you the year because that's going to kind of date me, but time ago. And he didn't make a lot of money at the time, but he saved up his money and he sent me to this camp because he saw that I had an interest in basketball. Mm. And that experience changed my life. It was that experience where I was around kids who didn't look like me, and they had different backgrounds. They were from different cultures. But I was really inspired. I was motivated. I was hungry for the game of basketball. Mm. The game of basketball has transformed my life. It's allowed me to not only have experiences for myself, but for my family as well. Mm. It's allowed me to get into spaces, into rooms that a lot of Black men don't have the opportunity to get into. Yeah. It's allowed me to develop a mindset of can do versus I can't. Mm. And it transformed my life. So it was at that age where I made a decision that basketball was going to have a huge impact on my life.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I know growing up, it's never all, beds and roses. There are always, some things that you have to face. Because when I see you speak and when I see you lead, I know you have confidence. You know what you're saying and who you are. Were you always like that, or was there some experience that you had that made you switch from being, pretty much not being confident in yourself and becoming confident?
It's a great question, Z. As I mentioned earlier, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles in the early 90s. So I grew up with gang violence. I grew up in drug-infested neighborhoods. I have family members who were gang members. I grew up in an environment where I had to fight to get out. And what I did was I transferred that fight into something that was positive instead of something that was negative. I had several teammates, I had several friends that I went to school with that got consumed with that fight. And they went down a different road. They went to the penitentiary. They got hooked on drugs. They had a different life, but I transferred that energy for something that was positive, but most importantly, something that where I could do God's work. And that's paid off for me. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have a father that, like I said earlier, gave me those positive messages. But that was really, I guess, the core reason why I have so much determination that I have now. And the toughest challenge that I have now, being a parent is one of the hardest things that you're going to do one day. Understand. But if I could transfer that experience and that energy to my own children, I think it would benefit them. My children have benefited from my success, and they know their father as this athletic director, this leader, but they don't know their father as the Black teenager who was trying to find a way out. Yeah. And who had insane discipline insane discipline and commitment to elevate myself, because I knew that it was more than just about me getting out, but it was me getting out to pull up brothers and sisters from the masses of poverty, from the masses of miseducation, of education, from the masses of a lack of a growth mindset, and from the masses of the status quo that embedded in the Black community.
Now, I think this is it's going to be like just a direct transition into my next question. Seeing everything that's going on now, 2020, the protests, the racial divide that's been going on, seems to be two sides, two groups of people who are saying, Black people in the U.S. are saying we are being dealt with badly, but really it's not what it is. And then the people who are being treated badly are saying, yo, this is actually happening to us. Now, let me ask you this. With the protests going on, do you think it's helped so far? Or are there other things we should still be doing?
I believe the protests have advanced the cause. As a Black man, I understand the history of protests in this country, all the way back to John Smith, all the way back to Martin Luther King and some other pioneers. Now we have contemporary versions of that, and I believe that that's been helpful, but there's more work to be done. We protest, but we really need to look each other in the eye and say, how can we collectively make change? And, we understand the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's powerful. And a part of that has to be about collective change. It has to be about accountability. And it can't just be finger pointing saying, well, this white person over here is wrong. This is not about finger pointing and saying that white people are wrong. That's not what this is about. This is about saying that we all need to be accountable for making the change that we want to see in the world. Because good people come in all different shapes, colors, forms. And I understand that in the protest, unlike years ago, we do have our white supporters who have come out and helped. And I applaud that. But we also, need our white supporters to help us advance professionally.
Yeah.
We need help in developing the pipeline to have more professionals like myself, physicians, to be able to help those in need.
Now, with your position as the director of athletics, I know it's in your heart to make sure that, people are educated on what's going on. What would you say is one of your goals to make sure that the conversation continues going, and also the institution of the campus gets more education on the facts of things that are happening?
If I don't find a way to continue the conversation, I'm doing my department, I'm doing UMKC a disservice. One of the things that I've talked about, Zeke, was what's going to happen when the fire goes out, when everyone stops protesting, when everyone stops the chants about Black Lives Matter. What's going to happen then? At the end of the day, I'm an educator. It's my job to educate not only Black student athletes, but all of my student athletes on diversity, inclusion, equity, and how to navigate the real world. And so in this season, I've embraced my role as an educator and a teacher and a guardian to educate student athletes, to be a supporter of my coaches in this period, and to be a shining example of how we need to elevate in this unprecedented period. We can make a decision, Zeke, because things are so turbulent and things are so transient now, to shut down shut down and make excuses about why we can't move forward. But I've chosen not to do that.
Yeah.
I've chosen to elevate. And that's what I continue to do.
Because, because I'm an international student. So UMKC does a great job of when it comes to diversity, and that's something I think I applaud them for. Now, I feel there is also a need for education where it's not just, getting people of different places together, but actually educating on the things that happen in the city, because one thing that shook my cores was learning about the truth incident, the red line and all that, making people understand what's going on. And I really, advise people to be able to search for those information. Now, as a leader at UMKC, you definitely have conversations where, a lot of people get uncomfortable when you start talking about things that really affect other people's lives. Are you thinking that there should be more of those educational things to help people, understand what's going on around them, or is there a need for that, now and in the future?
See, can you pardon me 1 second?
Okay.
Sorry, Z, can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, so I was asking, so for me, being an international student, the first time that I actually got deeper into, the racial divide in Kansas City was when I learned about the red lining and, truth thing that happened in truth that created more like a two word for Kansas City, where they're the rich and then there are the poor and the minority. Now, I was asking if those kind of conversations need to be had more in like, what are things that we can do to start having those things in more of our conversation in different classes?
Sure. Last week, we held a town hall for Black men on campus.
Okay.
I felt that was timely. But there's much more work that we can do to have more discourses about change and about the realities of the divide that you're referencing.
Mm-hmm.
And so my plan is to work with the administration at UMKC, also some of the community leaders, perhaps some of even the elected officials within Kansas City, so that we can continue this conversation, about the division and how do we maximize not so much this moment, but this movement. Mm. And so this is a movement. This is not just about a moment. And so that's one of the things that I preach to my student athletes. It's one of the things that I've written about over the last month, that if we can commit to this movement, I think we can engender the change. But if this is just a moment where we're full of emotion, mm-hmm. then we're gonna burn out, and then we're gonna go back to the status quo, and then we might not get this period for another 20, 30 years.
Yeah. I'm actually like going back to fall semester, which is, I don't even know how that's gonna look like, but I'm looking forward to having more open conversations about racial divide and be able to educate people, where we can have events on campus that actually focus on those issues. So I think that's one thing I'm really passionate about, and my organization is really going to be focusing on a lot. Now I want to ask this. So with the pandemic going on in COVID-19, how are your athletes doing mentally and physically? How are they doing?
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
But challenge is part of being a college student, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've really encouraged the student athletes to embrace this transient period where we don't know if we're going to have fall sports. This is a period where student athletes need to embrace the student part of their identities. This is where scoreboards don't matter.
Yeah.
Just where you can really get into your self-identity, your self-purpose,
Mm-hmm.
even self-mastery to some degree, and delve within yourself and do some self-inventory to figure out who you are
Yeah.
and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of thinking about the pandemic as a loss of opportunity, it's really an opportunity to gain,
Mm.
an opportunity to advance,
Yeah.
opportunity to grow personally, because now student athletes have more time and they're not engulfed in the wins and losses. They're not engulfed in practices as much as they would be normally. So now all of a sudden, they can tailorize and create their own paths and have more ownership of their experience as student athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, things were so rapid that perhaps they didn't have that opportunity. So I think this is a positive, Zeke. I
Yeah.
really.
Now, are they still training, or are they getting practices in, getting ready for the season? You know, is that all happening?
We do have some programs who are training, not practicing. They're training in small groups
Okay.
because we can't have workouts with full teams, at the moment, and that's a change as well. That's student athletes accustomed to working out individually, but mostly as a team, and it's a change for our coaches. But again, I'm convinced that this is a time for everyone to grow and to be better once this pandemic subsides and we go back to whatever that new normal is.
Mm. Yeah. All right. So, are there like what are the plans for like the next season, or what is like for the courts? Is there social distancing? What are the games going to look like? Are there plans in place? What is that going to look like? 'Cause I don't have a mental picture of what that's going to look like.
Zeke, I'm on calls each day with NC2A officials, with
Yeah.
conference officials in the Summit League, and also with my senior team and the medical authorities
Mm.
to figure out what that looks like. It's possible that our fall sports could be delayed, which means that there could be perhaps an October 1st start date for our fall sports. It's possible that our basketball season could be conference only.
Mm.
I'm not voting for that, but it's a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much on the table right now. We have so many more questions than answers. But at the forefront of our decision-making has to be our student athletes and their
Mm-hmm.
well, not the economics that we can gain from ticket sales, fundraising, and perhaps expansions with facilities and merchandise. That's undoubtedly important to what we do. But right now, the health, safety, and welfare of our student athletes has to be our prime directive.
Mm.
And
Yeah, because last season was and it was a very good season. You guys had an energetic season. I was really excited. I went for more games than I have ever gone in my time at UMKC.
I appreciate that.
It was just bad the way the whole thing ended, because I was like, man, I'm getting into the flow of things. You know, I want to have to see more things happen, more games happen. Then COVID happened. Now going to the next season, are we gonna see a build up of last season? Because I know the women's basketball team got the championship. Are we gonna see more increase in that? Even though if things kind of go a little bit different, we're gonna get some good victories and some good wins.
Yes, first kudos to Coach JC Hoyt for the season that she had with women's basketball. It was nothing short of sensational. On the men's basketball side, Billy Dowland is a phenomenal coach, an incredible teacher, and he's the right man that we need for the job now. As we transition into the Summit League, my expectation is that we compete. I'm not going to say that we're going to win the conference. I'm not going to say that. I don't want to put any pressure on the student athletes or the coaches or myself, for that matter, in this period. But I know that we're going to be competitive. And as I mentioned before, our mantra and philosophy is comprehensive excellence. And we've transformed the mindset and increased the expectations from the folks in Kansas City in terms of the product that we can put on the floor and also on the field and other respective sports that we have in the department. And so I say all that to say that our expectations is to continue to advance, continue to grow, and continue to make the folks in Kansas City proud of their only Division I team.
Sorry, I had to get some feedback settled back there. Yeah, I personally, I'm looking forward to because I work with the athletic department too. I'm a student assistant, so I am there up on almost all the games. So I get to be with the Roos, the mascot. I get to be backstage and in front of the stage with him. So that's always exciting. Now, when it comes to building a team that is successful, what has been your part to play in being instrumental in making sure that these athletes have the right mentality going into the games, right, and being able to stay motivated in the course?
Well, Zeke, my job is to provide the infrastructure for the teams to be successful. So some of the strides that we've made is we have a new competition floor. You've seen that. We've rebranded. So we have a new logo.
Yeah.
We have a new visual identity. We've renovated the North Lobby space so that we can tell the story of Kansas City athletics.
Wow.
We have exterior graphics outside so that when our fans come to our games, it evokes some emotion. And they can see our student athletes and our coaches displayed on the wall in Swinney. We've also returfed our soccer field, which is a game changer for us and for the university, for that matter. That's huge, and it's perfect timing as we transition into the Summit League and have two new soccer head coaches in Vera. So I'm really excited about both of my soccer coaches and the direction where we're headed. So my job is to provide infrastructure, to fundraise money so that the coaches have the tools and they have what they need to be successful, to have that competitive edge. I'm also heavily involved on the external relations side in terms of the corporate sponsorships, the ticket sales, and the marketing. And I have an incredible team with Kurt JC and his staff. They've done a remarkable job with selling who we are and really getting Kansas City's attention that we're for real and we want to make Kansas City proud.
Yeah, I also want to commend you on being able to the soccer field on its own, because I saw that move and I was like, man, some work is going on. I missed the COVID and everything. You still got the job done. So I want to say I'm proud and I'm just thankful for you being a person who says something and you do it. So that says a lot about your personality. So again, I'm looking forward to the fall semester. Even if we have to stand outside, stand 10 feet apart, I'm just gonna come and watch the game. I don't care how we're gonna do it, but we'll get it done. So I'm excited for the season. let me ask you this: is that something you're looking forward to for the fall season? Is that something that you're planning on, or some other project that you're working on, trying to get into the game for this coming up season?
Well, Zeke, I think first we have to have clarity on how we're going to move forward with the fall season. If we're going to have a delay, number one, if we're going to move our fall competition to spring competition. If so, how does that impact all of our sports? And how does it impact our championships and non-conference play? What does that mean? So we need clarity first. We need clarity. And once we gain that clarity, we always shift our focus to the student athletes and making sure that they're safe. Because we will have student athletes who will be on campus. They will be in housing, and their safety is important. And also, I think the welfare of our coaches is important. This is a big shock, a big trigger change for them. Some have been coaching for decades, and now they're forced to lead in a different way, to lead in the unknown without data and without a precedent that's been set. So it's critically important for me as the leader to not only pour into the student athletes, but also to the coaches.
Yeah. I mean, we all need some clarity right now because a lot is going on. They said 2020, I don't want to keep saying this, but they said it's been a year from hell. I don't want to keep saying it. They said it's been a year from the book of Jumanji. Like, they opened the book and, like, things flew out. But for me personally, I think it's a year to sit down and think, sit down and breathe, take it in and move forward. It's throwing a lot at odds at the same time, but it's, again, how do you take it? How do you process those information and transform it into something better? So as we are nearing August, which is in a couple of weeks from now, getting close to the fall semester, it's going to feel unsure of what we're going to do, but I'm still looking forward to something positive. At least we're going to get something going, So I just want to say thank you for the awesome work you do. You have been just great, influential on the campus, on, young people. Leadership has been really effective, and I commend you for the awesome work you do, being really direct and being purposeful in how you go about doing your business. So I just want to say thank you for coming on the FiredUp KC show. The thing I want to be able to do whenever this is all over is to have an in-person conversation just about a whole bunch of things that happen on campus. But again, this is a virtual world that we're in right now, so we're trying to figure out how we make this work. So I want to say thank you for coming on the FiredUp KC show. Thank you for being such, an inspirational leader and pushing us to the next level that we need to get to. So thank you again. We might come to the end of the show, but I want to ask you this. Where can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. You can go to Dr. B. Martin, at Dr. B. Martin on my Twitter handle. You can at Doc Martin to my personal website to be reached.
Okay, sweet. Well, thank you again. We've come to the end of the show. Thank you for being part of this show. Again, it's always home for you. We can always conversate because you're an example of what a leader should be. So it's been a wonderful FiredUp KC episode. I just want to say, stay safe, stay healthy, stay fired up out there, keep doing what you're doing, and hopefully whenever this is all over, you get to see again in the fall semester and get those root games and get some wins in. Get excited for the root. So thank you again, and have a wonderful day out there and stay safe.
Thank you, Zeke. I really appreciate you having me on, and appreciate all of your kudos and support for my leadership, but also want to commend you for the leadership that you've exemplified on campus, and you make me proud. So you keep doing the good work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.